incredible speaker. I had an opportunity to spend some time with her this morning, and I know she's going to do a great job, and she's incredibly funny. So let me get back on script. So, Lorie Burch, let me tell you about this young lady. Lorie is a Dallas attorney who primarily focuses on comprehensive estate planning, including wills, trusts, powers of attorney, living wills, and probate. Lorie currently serves on the DFW Lambda Legal Leadership Committee. From 2014 to 2016, Lorie served on the Black Tie Dinner Board, which is a charitable dinner board that raises money for local beneficiaries and the Human Rights Foundation. Lorie served as the 2013-2014 National President for the Board of Directors of the American Business Women's Association, or better known as ABWA. From 2011 to 2013, she served on the ABWA National Board as well as the Board of Trustees for the Stephen Buffton Memorial Educational Fund. She is also the past chairwoman of the Board of Directors for the North Texas GLBT Chamber of Commerce and was formerly the co-chair of the DFW Human Rights Campaign Steering Committee. Lorie was honored by the Dallas Business Journal as a 2013 Women in Business. She was recognized as one of the 2010 top 10 businesswomen for the American Business Women's Association. Also in 2010, I was telling Lorie, you had a heck of a year in 2010, didn't you? Also in 2010, Lorie was selected as Woman of the Year for the Outlook Positive Express Network for ABWA. In 2007, Lorie was awarded the North Texas GLBT Chamber Person of the Year. Lorie is also a solo practitioner who primarily focuses on helping families, single parents, and everyone in between with creating wills, trusts, powers of attorney, and living wills. If you're interested in talking more with Lorie, she will be available throughout the evening. Please help me welcome our keynote speaker, Lorie Burch.
Well, that feels like a lot of build-up. So much of what's been talked about tonight is exactly what I would have to share for you. So I'm just going to say ditto and call it a night and get on to dessert. No, of course not. There's very little I enjoy more than the sound of my own voice. So if you will indulge me first, I just really want to recognize what an honor it is to be in front of all of you, but particularly the women who are being honored here tonight. Just reading through your bios, quite frankly, makes mine sound pretty pathetic, but very, very impressive. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you about tonight, what could I possibly have to share with you, I really was drawn to the mission, and I'm so glad that we got to hear about it, that the YW is on a mission to eliminate racism, empower women, promote justice, peace, freedom, and dignity for all. That's pretty aspirational. Those are some very, very powerful words, and words have meaning, words matter. And I mean, I'm an attorney, so of course I love words, particularly ones that come out of my own mouth. But I don't like words that are empty, that aren't followed up by deeds, and we see a lot of incongruent actions when people say one thing and then they behave in another. Fortunately for all of you, we're surrounded by the work of the YW and the ladies being honored here tonight and the past recipients of these awards, and you're the ones who are walking the walk. You're the ones where deeds and words come together. But it does matter, and I particularly think that women are in a unique position, so Dante, great segue into me being able to speak, in a unique position to really help create a brighter future and to have our deeds match our words in the aspirations that are in the mission statement. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my experience, because the idea of equality really I've carried with me my entire life. I've always felt like I wanted to make a difference. And so it led me to law school in DC, and I had some great experiences. And I will tell you, my first year of law school, I'll tell you, I absolutely hated it. But it was a pivotal time. I was away from my family, and it was actually when I came out to myself. I really just had no idea. And it was interesting because I ended up taking a year leave of absence after my first year of law school. I went home to the Dallas area to be with my family to try and contemplate what did this mean for my life. I've been so focused on equality and social justice for other people, but now it's hitting a little close to home. And what does this mean? What does it mean in the context of my family, of my future, of my faith, my career? And so I had a nice leave of absence at home and got to be with my family and went through some counseling and ended up doing some part-time work that ended up leading to a civil rights case on behalf of the ACLU challenging mandatory school uniforms in Texas. So we lost bad, but it was still a great experience. It's, even when you feel like you're on the right side of things, it's still, even when you lose, it still feels all right. But I went back to law school because I was not going to give up on that, and it was a better experience. I ended up working with, got 2 fellowships back-to-back awarded to me from the Human Rights Campaign. I got to work for People for the American Way, and so when I graduated, I was all ready to go out there and be this civil rights public interest lawyer, and there was not a job to find for me. And it was right after 9/11, and being in DC, the economy was really bad. It was bad everywhere, but the idea of finding a position, it was few and far between. So I bounced around a little bit and ended up as in a contractual position with the Securities and Exchange Commission. But after a while, I became more and more disillusioned. But I had an idea. I had an idea about going home to the Dallas area. I'd seen my mom successfully build a couple different businesses there, and it's a hospitable climate for small businesses. And I thought, what if I started my own law practice, and I focused on this area of law that, not to get into too much of backstory, that I had some experience with doing wills and powers of attorney and actually found it very interesting. And what if I focus a part of that on the LGBT community and help provide families and couples such sacred benefits and rights that the law doesn't currently provide, and quite frankly with you still to some extent does not provide. So it's just an idea. And then my stepdad, who I was very close to. By the way, I get really emotional, but it's okay. So my YWCA sisters are like, oh yeah, that's Lorie. So he passed away suddenly, and within 3 weeks I was packed up and didn't have a job. I wasn't licensed in Texas. My family was struggling with the loss of our patriarch. This will be really relevant later, by the way. And but I just had to try. I just had to try. So I sat for the Texas bar exam, and I went about promoting my business in 2 separate worlds. There was the LGBT or GLBT or whatever acronym we're using world, where I was Lorie, and here's who I am, and I'm doing this planning for our community. And then there was the other world, the American Business Women's Association world, the Chamber of Commerce's other networking groups, where I was Lorie the lawyer who did wills and trusts. And amazingly enough, I found that I had a real knack for it. I really enjoyed helping people. And as a result, I started getting a lot of business, and I was asked to take on leadership roles, and suddenly I was working for different organizations, volunteering for them. They were flying me back to DC, and it's like, wow, this is exactly where I really always wanted to be. And, but I still kept those worlds separately until one day, dang it, that YWCA organization decided to nominate me for the Top 10 Businesswomen Award, which is one of our main areas of recognition in the association. And I got that call that I was chosen. And so technically, Dante, it was 2009. The 2010s are picked in 2009. By the way, you have a past top 10 in your presence, Judith Glover, who's responsible for bringing me in today. And so I had to get up in front of a room just like this and do something that I had never ever done before, because part of this award is you talk about your work and your experience and your goals. And for the first time in my life, I had, in a non-perceived safe environment, be open and honest about who I am and the work that I did. And besides wearing a white suit and drinking red wine, it was the bravest thing I had ever done. And when I was done, a strange thing happened, because instead of looking at me and judging me or being silent, they rose to their feet, and they applauded and they celebrated me. And I thought, wow. And I was thinking about that actually when the women were coming up earlier, and I was thinking, you know, the message that I got from that, and I hope the message that you get, is you belong. You belong. At the time, I was thinking that, okay, I'm going to pursue these leadership roles in these other LGBT organizations, but then when that happened and these women wanted me to get involved in their association, I thought, here's an opportunity. And that night at the banquet, after I had to get up and give my speech, a woman came up to me who just a couple months before would have been the essence of someone I would have been afraid of not knowing what they thought of me. And she grabbed my shoulders and she said, "Thank you for what you do and what you do for my daughter." And thank you. And that really was a shift for me, because suddenly this idea of the fear of what people are going to think really just disappeared. Or at least I ignored it. Because there was such a greater opportunity, not only for people who are like me or who were me just a year before, that need somebody to identify with, or people who potentially have an open heart and open mind, or people who have somebody that they care about, that it was important to be visible and to be authentic and to be vulnerable, which is why I get so emotional easily, because it's so important for me to be able to do that, because it's for the Lories of 10 years ago who would have never been able or brave enough to do that. And so I ran for the board, and I ended up, as you heard, became the national president of the American Business Women's Association, which is the nation's oldest professional business women's association. And that was such an amazing year for me. And my board is, I think to this day, probably one of the most diverse boards that they've ever had. And I was the second to youngest, and I was the president. And I led ladies that were from all different parts of the country, all different ethnicities, educations, points of view. And we were united because we united under the fundamental concept of being kind and considerate and respectful and treating each other with dignity. I'm glad you're applauding it, because it's going to make the rest of what I have to say really good. But after that experience, a member sent me a gift in the mail with a card that read, "Thank you for changing my judging heart to a loving heart." And I thought, you know, if there's nothing else I do in this world, that by itself would be enough. But that's really the power, and I think one of the things that Dante and I bonded about is the idea that you do not have to personally identify or even understand, or even agree with somebody else, just in order to respect them and value their perspective and say, you know what, you have a voice and you have a place at the table. And if I want you to care about what I've got going on and my concerns and my identity, I need to care about yours. And that doesn't mean necessarily understanding, but it just means being human, being respectful. And so when I was the president, ABWA has these annual themes, and I stumbled across this pendant, which I'm wearing now. It was given to me, awarded, because I just want more awards. It was given to me by the executive director. And it reads on it, "Equality through responsibility." And here is this association that I never thought I would be the national president of in 1971, before I was born. That was their mantra that year, and it really struck me because it, talked about this idea of equality and how important that is to try and create equal opportunities for people. But it's the rest of it that I thought that really, really captured me, because it's what I started talking about, words and deeds. And so if we really, really want to achieve these aspirational goals, this mission, then it's through responsibility, which means we have a call to action. We've got to do something about it. We have a responsibility to see that. I was in church a few years ago. Well, I've been more recently, but I'm a Methodist, so I don't really have to go that often. But the minister was giving a sermon about a New Year's Eve blog that he had read about following your heartbreak. It's a little bit of a different spin other than following your passion, but follow your heartbreak. What pains you about the world? That's how I felt. And maybe in there lies your purpose, your compass. And I'll tell you, I'm sure I'm not alone in here thinking that we're experiencing a real crisis of leadership right now. That there's an utter lack of a fostering a culture of civility and dignity. We've gotten to this place where we've become so divided that we're not even going to respect or give any sort of truth to someone who doesn't see things the way that we do. And the system is set up to keep us looking at each other that way, because as long as we're against each other, we're not going to realize that there's something else in control. They want us to stay cynical so that the status quo can stay the way that it is. But if we wake up and realize that we actually do have the power, we actually do have the control, then we can change the game. And it can start as simply in the words that we use. Remember, they have meanings. So we don't call each other losers or stupid or deplorable. Community is not just about geography, and it's not just about likeness. It's about understanding and embracing that our futures are inextricably connected to the well-being of one another. The golden rule is not just a platitude. Do unto others. Now, it's not do unto others as they've done to you, or do unto others how you think they would do to you. It's do unto others as you would have done to you. Now, I don't know about you, but my mama taught me that what somebody says or does is a reflection of them, but how you respond is a reflection of you and your character. So I like to think that I'm a legacy of my mom. And I think about the word legacy, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately, because I'm going to talk about this in a second, that I've been thrown into parenthood. I officially in June, I will be the stepmother of a 12 and a 7-year-old, and daughters. And just with our political climate over the years that I have been in their lives the last 2 years, I think about legacy, and it's interesting because what I do for a living, wills and estate planning, is called legacy planning, and it's really not just in the context of money and stuff. I mean, that's all great because that's what allows us to donate to good causes. But it's really about a gift. It's a handing something down. It's about trying to make sure that you are taking care of your loved ones, the people that you care about, and what sort of legacy do you want to leave and do you want to live. And in doing the work that I do, and it's why I just am so openly emotional now, is that I can tell you, when I get brought in to speak about wills and estate planning and probate, nobody's real excited about it. I already tell them out the gate, I know this is depressing stuff, but what I have observed in the 13 years that I've done this is that no matter whether somebody is Christian or Muslim, straight, gay, white, black, Republican or Democrat, it all boils down to that fundamental fragility of our own humanity. And whether it's losing a parent, losing a spouse or a partner or a child or a pet, we all feel that hurt and that pain. And when you hear about that tragedies and just the soldier that we lost, did you wait before you grieved to find out who he voted for president? No. And so I draw on one of the quotes from one of the people that inspires me the most. You can be a good person to other people and make the world a better place. That was my 7-year-old daughter. Now, she was 6 when she said it. And it's interesting being a parent because she said that so purely. And now that I am a parent, I see the stories and the messages we send them, the books, the movies, even what they're taught at school about celebrating diversity and being good citizens and having a good heart and you can do anything you want. And then we have to take stock of what kind of world are we turning them out into? And are we following through with that message? So we can make a choice whether we just stop telling them all that stuff because that's not what we're going to have them experience, or what I think most everybody in this room wants to do is actually follow through on the world that we're telling them they can create. And I hear a lot about these younger generations, they're so entitled, they have it so much better. And maybe there's some truth to that, but here's the deal. If they keep having to fight the same battles, they will never be able to take on new frontiers. We should want it to be better for them so they can make progress. I know that when I was national president of the American Businesswomen's Association, that my story would not have been possible in 1949 when the association started. Yeah, it's easier and better. And you know what? That was a call to action for me to carry on that legacy, to see how I can make it easier and better. So it is a call to action. What can we do? What's our responsibility? Well, we've heard some great ideas from many of the honorees. They're doing that already. But it's getting involved. It's taking action. I'll do a plug here because I've got no skin in the game, it's giving money. At the very least, open up your wallets. It makes a difference, particularly with everybody's struggling with the budget. When I've been hearing about what's been going on in your state, it makes a big impact. A big impact. Volunteer. Get involved at work. Help a campaign. Heck, run for office. Why not? Who are the next trailblazers in this room? And don't think for a second that one person can't make a difference. If you remember what Margaret Mead said, is never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Because indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. It only takes a spark to start a fire. So I will close with words of that great Memphis philosopher, Elvis Presley. Deep in my heart, there's a trembling question. Still, I am sure that the answer is going to come somehow. Out there in the dark, there's a beckoning candle. And while I can think, while I can talk, while I can stand, while I can walk, while I can dream, while we can dream, while we can envision a better world, while we can harness our American spirit, our legacy, from our Declaration of Independence to the greatest generation storming the beaches of Normandy, to marching on Selma, to uniting at Seneca Falls, and to fighting back at Stonewall. We can demand better, we are entitled to better, and we can create better. We can create a greater legacy. It's our responsibility. Congratulations again to all the women tonight. I cannot wait to see the legacy you create. Thank you very much.